This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. It was a nightmare.
Flight 807, you're clear for landing, runway 7, Bravo. All personnel report to the nearest tornado shelter. This is not a drill.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made in first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. So let's waste no time, folks. It's a good deal. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Art reigns supreme locally. The Butler Art Museum plans to expand. $2.3 million is what is set to expand the Arts Museum. That's a lot of money, a lot of dough. Now, the plan is to create 3,810 more square feet of space for larger works of art, somewhere between about 15 feet to be exact. Now, after the expansion of several local arts venues, it seems that the arts may be the future of where the valley is headed because there's been a lot of investments, including myself. Now, the challenge will be getting money in the pockets of local activists to at least spend and contribute. It is not cheap to do art, so let's hope this story keeps it up because art stimulates the economy and it also keeps people in motion. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. What did local residents learn from the snowstorm? Now, once again, city residents found themselves in a storm. This time it was a winter storm. Residents have complained about lack of road clearing. Senior patrons have complained about lack of volunteers to help shovel their driveways. Some taxpayers and citizens even found themselves trapped in snow with no way to get to work on time or period. Now, some people even received help from other people. Some people did, while some decided to hire their own snowplow. I'm sure we've all heard the stories. Now, just like every act of nature, we all learned once again that we can never be too prepared for a storm. So let's hope that we learned that we have to be prepared. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Let's show some love and help and be kind to one and all in a snowstorm. Big headline. Story number 3. Almost a month into the year, and crime once again is still in the headlines. Crime has been in a lot of local headlines lately. Now, a missing 14-year-old boy, Landon Lockhart's body was found in a wooded area of North Truesdale Avenue on the east side. This is not good news. Now, the death has been ruled a homicide, according to a very heated men's discussion. This is not even just according to, but adding to. When men have these discussions, now this is a man-to-man talk. We have these heated arguments and discussions about why are kids dying, especially young men. We had this problem with Trayvon Martin. These kids are dying before they even mature. They have all these church groups, from every religion, and you have men talking. But men are still dying. Young brothers, young men from all races. Now, as more crime stories hit home, some people are finding new hobbies to escape the constant news about death, especially when you hear about young men, young people dying, even not just men, but women too, young ladies too. Now, according to a local article, Landon disappeared from his Southside home in November. The crime is still under investigation. This is showing that we need to start changing the way we do things, changing the way we behave because kids are dying. And that's why story number 3 is so important. Big headline. Story number 4. There is a history of local kids with guns. Another wild headline. An 18-year-old now faces gun charges. Now, adding to a long debate of what has been taking place locally when it comes to kids, especially young kids, not even just turning adults. Now, how do kids end up with weapons? That's the big question. The Valley has a history of youth getting caught with guns. Gun violence has stayed in major headlines locally and across the United States. If this keeps up, this story will stay alive. This has been going on since the Mediator was in high school. Big headline. That was story number 4, made in this week. Story number 5. Internal strife in local government is still in the headlines. On January 15th, another article showing the city's internal frustration in dealing with help has made headlines. The help that they hire. Now, an article about Youngstown's former community development agency director who was fired by Mayor Jamel Tito Brown is a story that could be overlooked. Now, the sad part about the story is how consistent stories about internal conflicts have been in the news, local news. Teron Cunningham, his firing is yet another story added to the list of things that have been going on internally. Now, so far, Law Director Jeff Libyan has been caught into the mix of internal conflicts. We've seen some stories about him. Ward Councilman Julius Oliver has been in some stories. A handful of city workers have been in some stories. Former Police Chief Robin Lees have been in some stories, and even past stories that involve Terrell Vidal, if you don't remember those stories, have all made headlines due to internal conflicts within Tito Brown's administration. Now, most of these conflicts were minor, they were major news stories involving judicial review. That means they reached the courts. Now, one of the stories even involved an opposing mayoral bid by the councilman. Julius Oliver ran against Mayor Jamel Tito Brown because of some conflicts. Now, this is another story that is still developing because internal conflicts are staying in the headlines when it comes into the sixth. Story number 6. The court has spoken about redistricting. Fairness and evidence of gerrymandering is what the court has decided. A Vindicator article released Saturday, January 15th, gave the state legislature 30 days to draw a fairer congressional map. The court answers the call of some local leaders, especially in the minority community, to answer they wanted to stop what they felt was an unfair and unlawful districting scheme by the opposing party. Now, it is clear that the court wants powers to be balanced, and if lawmakers can't pass a plan in time, the responsibility would then go to the Ohio Redistricting Commission. Now, the decision was not only made by Democrats, but it was also made by Republicans. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you to keep you informed. Ooh-wee, that's a good deal. Story number 7, local voting and what we need to know about it. Now, there's been a lot of activity surrounding the vote and the voting process. Locally, this is big because Trump won Ohio. Now, to give you a clear view of why this story is still in circulation is because there are no good guys when it comes to voting. This holds true in the Electoral College also because the popular majority decides the winner. Now, Ohio is just one of many states that invest in clean and fair elections. Now, after last year's heavily publicized election that drew waves of controversy after Joe Biden won by a landslide, the attention began to surround how did this happen. Now, then this story reached the mainstream and exploded into other major election fraud claims. Now, locally, primetime candidates also saw the effects of voting in the mayoral race. Councilman Julius Oliver showed his frustration early with the low voter turnout locally that later led to the current Mayor Jamel Tito Brown defeating Republican Tracy Winbush, independent candidate Richard Hill, and several write-in candidates. Now, what remains clear in this story is what's taking place center stage and what each party is trying to achieve. Story number 8 and the top. Woo, we made it. We got it. You do it. You do it. You got it. It's top story that made it this week. Lucky to make it. We got it. We got it. Boy, the story about 8 ball story. One for $85 to go once. Story number 8. What did DeWine achieve in his first term, and what are we learning about education in his first term? It's clear that Governor Mike DeWine, his first term, will be judged on how he has handled the destruction brought on by COVID-19. Now, at the moment, the governor probably would get an A for effort, but that's being a little bit too much now. But the reality is that Ohio has already thrown in the towel when it comes to COVID-19. That means there's been a lot of failures. A lot of triumphs, but no, there's not been a lot of triumphs. There's been a lot of failures. Now, in this fight, we're also learning about the fragile foundation of the education system. COVID-19 has left parents, teachers, and staff with a bitter taste in their mouth, and there seems to be no solid solution in the fight. Now, thus showing why COVID-19 could be what keeps DeWine's fate for a second term in the headlines. Analysts will be all over this, asking questions and trying to figure out what the governor's plans are for the future as Ohio tries to get over the COVID-19 hump, and we're doing it, which is just battling through and common sense, and a lot of people are just taking matters into their own hands. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines, so don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. You're in the Mediator. Me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, we all have talents. And I learned that I did not want to take my talent to the football field. I used to play football all the time when I was a kid. I played it in high school, and I used to get beat up because I'm not big. I'm a little man, so I had to stay in my lane. I just try to go through holes and burst through holes, and big grizzly brothers smash me. And I knew I didn't want to play basketball. It took me a while to develop at basketball. I got a lot of boos. I got kicked off the court, and I got dunked on quite a bit. Dunked on by some heavily strong, tall brothers, big brothers. Leaving the court crying, legs just all messed up because they just dunking all over me. So I knew I didn't want to play basketball. But I knew that the good Lord had a plan for me. And I found a story to tell you. A story that will lead you to the promised land. Whew. And that's how this all happened. That's how I became the mediator, folks. And I don't regret it. Still got a long way to go. A lot of stories to tell, hopefully, Lord willing. But I'm doing it for you to keep you informed, folks. Let's waste no time. Let's get to the nitty gritty. Let's get to the stories, baby. Let's get to it. Story number 1. International. Getting creative in hard times. Yes, people are getting very creative in these hard times and uncertain economic times, and they're finding that there are certain economic patterns that are showing how people are getting creative and how they're doing it, how they're making it. Now, when it comes to money, people are finding creative ways to spend it to make it last. Now, when it comes to fun, some people are finding creative ways to spend it at home with their children. Even in the category of relationships, some people are finding partners online and keeping their relationships under mutual terms. Can't touch me. We ain't get no relations. Sure, we gonna have relations. No! You get nothing. Strap it up. Whew. Weddings are also getting creative. Some people are choosing the cheaper route by just getting a local document or a legal document. Local legal documents. Get married. Churches are getting very creative. They're also having members meet and gather online through social media and all that other stuff, and they're taking donations. Universities are getting very creative by reaching out to students and past donors to stay afloat and carry out their mission statement as a university. Now, this creativity has economists watching spending habits and how in hard times, how we're getting through and how people are finding ways to make things work with the little that they do have. Now, one story trending in CNN Business is asking the question of if the government should control the price of food and gas in these hard times, how would this be? Now, this has been done before in a time of crisis, but mainstream economists are saying no, they don't want it to happen again. This article is definitely worth a read, and this story is definitely worth making it in. That's why I made it this week. Getting creative in hard times. Big headline. Story number 2. The Afghan stories are staying alive. Now, when asked about Afghanistan, Joe Biden referred to money and the long-term future outlook. He's saying that that's the reason why he chose to get out of there. That's the reason why he decided to pull out. I fly like paper, get high like plane. You can catch me at the border. I got visas in my name. Come around here, I make it all day. Joe Biden hitting high planes. Uptown, I'm to hit no trains. Now, analysts will be on this because Afghan stories are still making headlines. Now, even after pulling out, the Afghan saga is still major news because of the aftermath of pulling out. Now, here are some key concerns that analysts will be eyeing in this story after Joe Biden makes the statement of money is the reason why he got out of there. And other reasons. Now, the health of the Afghan people are how they are being governed under the Taliban. This is one key talking point that they will be eyeing. Another one too, adding aid money. How is adding money and trying to keep things afloat? How is that doing? Aid money, and how much aid money the United States is still contributed to keep the Afghan people happy and keeping them fed. Now, number 3, another one, migration. Analysts will be focusing on if Afghanistan is another Syria when it comes to migration. Where are these people going when they're trying to flee? Now, in all of these factors, this is what will keep the Afghan story in the headlines. All eyes will be on Joe Biden after he has made his case, saying that he felt it was needed for the betterment of America to get out of there and to save money. That's why story number 2 made it this week. It's going to cost more money just by getting out of there. So we'll see how the story develops. Big headline. Story number 3. Keeping an eye on oil prices. Goldman Sachs warns that oil prices will surge to $100 this year, according to a CNN business report. That's probably per barrel. Now, oil has been a major topic of discussion lately because of inflation. As of January 14th of 2022, the current price of oil sits at $83.72 per barrel. Now, this story has oil prices in top headlines and has stories about what people are doing to get around town trending. So these stories are trending. The story is still developing. That's why I made it in this week. Big headline. Story number 4. Why the rich and poor stories have to stay in the news. The key to this story, staying alive, is focusing on what nonprofits are saying in the midst of a crisis. Are they staying afloat? Are they getting donations? Now, nonprofits are begging for help and donations, so there is something to do in this. There are people to help. Now, when stories about the state of New York and Los Angeles make major headlines because of poverty rates, leadership questions remain the top concern. The big topic because these are big communities that requires a lot of big leadership. So leadership is where people are pointing the finger when you see trash in the street, you say children burning or getting caught in house fires. Leadership becomes the question. What are the leaders doing? Now, the conversation in the class war is becoming a real deal story because poverty is spreading to mainstream news almost every day, even more. And the working class always seems to be caught in the middle. Now, this story has to stay in the news to keep the topic of class warfare alive. Now, COVID-19 has eaten away at the foundation of cities with high poverty rates. It's eating away slowly at their pocketbooks, the budgets. They're making budget cuts. Now, the world's 10 richest men doubled their wealth during the pandemic, while the 99% of income in the 99% dropped across the United States. Well, across the United States, according to a USA Today report. And that's why story number 4 is so important, folks. Well, those are our top 4 international headlines in developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 4. So don't go anywhere. You're on the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com. Method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Welcome back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, I came across a good friend of mine and brought back some memories of why we have things like photographs and memories, videos, and I remember learning about chemistry and calculus and how all of this stuff came together, how mercury and lighting, you have cyan, magenta, yellow, and how all this stuff comes together to create one image. You have digital, you have all this stuff that we've been blessed with to keep memories alive. And I know a lot of people are losing people and they're losing loved ones. But I'm here to tell you that if you find a memory, if you find a photo to look throughout your own history, you got African American History Month coming up, Black History Month, but take some time to look throughout your own history, and you might find some inspiration. You might find something to live off of, some meat to keep you going. And that's what happens when you forget how valuable life is. I mean, we all struggle with things, mentally, physically, but sometimes we just got to find something to latch on to, something to move forward. And that's what keeps us alive. And that's what keeps us going. And that's what's special. And that's what's going to give us a swing set to talk about the good old days and to sing happy songs. Knowing love the way I do, I can say for certain that it's true. There's a chance for me and you. Woo! Woo-wee! Let's get to it. Story number 5. More attention needs to be on the future of education. Education stories are still making headlines, folks. The first ingredient when it comes to education is the number one ingredient. There has to be hunger to learn, because even when the recipe is when there is a recipe, when you have the recipe, if there's no hunger, no one's going to want to eat. They're not going to want to eat. So even with the recipe, it makes no sense. Now, teachers and parents and even onlookers have been fighting for years to fuel the thirst in kids to want knowledge, to learn and get their education, to get educated. Now, as Americans fight to keep schools open and colleges, students fight to pay their debt, all of this in COVID-19. In the process, we're also learning how serious the education fight is and why more attention needs to be on the future of education. Kids all over the world would do anything to learn, and people are wondering why Americans are wasting that valuable, what they say, not just virtue, but valuable thing, and that's education. That's why the story is still alive, and it has to stay alive. That's what story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6. Women, men, and race have somehow remained in the headlines. Muslim women especially, they're finding themselves in some brutal conditions, folks. They're being auctioned off, raped, some even burned. Women and men all over the world are in this new day and age. They're finding themselves in some harsh conditions almost every day. Sex trafficking has been in a lot of major headlines, and the more of these stories make it in, the more the reality becomes real. Now, if a person tells you that they do not battle with their sexual beast, they're lying. The truth is that we need it. We all need sex, and we all want it. And when we can't get it, it blows the head off. It turns into a monster. So please take notice of this story. And if you do sense or see a story of this nature, when you see somebody that's being taken against their own will, take notice of that and try to find a way to get that person some help. Now, another question brewing in this story is, why does race matter? And when you talk about sexual stuff, you talk about race as well. Race has been in quite a few headlines. Now, the key to understanding why race is such a big thing in this new day and age is understanding history. And if you don't know about the history, then you probably will be confused on what is actually going on in the world today, and especially in America. Why are all these racial stories taking place? Now, this story is still developing, and it made it in because being informed is an eye-opener. And when you become informed, you start understanding why people are doing the things they do, and you start having a little bit of sympathy and doing your own research and learning. And that's why story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week. Sex, race, women, and men. Big headline. Story number 7 in the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it into the top 2. Children are suffering at alarming rates. Story number 7. More stories about child hunger and what families are doing when they can't feed their children are coming in. One story about a baby being found out in the cold is just one of many stories shining light on hardship of children around the world. Now, the truth is that children are now suffering at alarming rates due to a number of circumstances taking place in modern times, in these present times. Now, this story made it in to help shine light on children and how they are being caught in the middle of some very, very terrible situations. We're just ordinary people. We don't know which way to go. Maybe we should take it slow. Stories. That's why this story made it in. Big situations that children find themselves in, especially when marriages break up. Now, stories of children being caught in war conflicts have also been in and out of the headlines. That's why story number 7 made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made it this week for you to keep you informed. Story number 8. What we're learning about inflation. This another big area. Soaring cost is starting to make people pretty desperate and nervous. Inflation is bringing out the animal in a lot of people, starting to steal, do all types of stuff. Now, this is yet another story making headlines because the more people fight, the more time they waste when it comes to the bigger picture. And that's getting back to work. Now, the truth in this story is that we have to produce to consume. We have to keep producing to consume. Now, there has to be work. People have to find a job. People have to work. This story is making a man out of men and turning women into superheroes when it comes to nurturing their flock, their families. Everyone plays a part when it comes to inflation. And COVID-19, the COVID-19 madness is making it worse. That's why Stern Raid made it to the top this week. We've got to work. We got to get on the workroom floor to start producing so we can battle this inflation. We've got to produce. We've got to make money. We've got to keep the economy going. And that's why Stern Raid made it to the top this week. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people in the front lines that keep us informed. You deserve all the credit. I'm just a mediator. Nobody. Man in the middle. Just read the stories. If you want to show some support here at Method 8, me especially, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. That is how I do this. Other than that, I'll just be spending my money myself, but that's how I keep this ship afloat. So if you want to show some support, just visit the website, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Thank you so much for tuning in this week, folks. I am out of here. Have a good week, everybody. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories to keep you informed. Have a good week, everybody. Peace.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.